distinguished guests, representatives from MSMEs and BMOs, experts on climate finance, change, and green finance, our respected panelists, senior executives from European Union, AFD, Climate Policy Initiative, SIDBI, Shakti Foundation, and my fellow colleagues and experts from the Foundation for MSME Clusters. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to this special session on unlocking green finance for India's MSMEs. I'm truly honored to be here amongst you. Before I begin, however, I want to take you all about 75 years back. In 1950s, we and our previous generations were having a wonderful time on planet Earth. There were problems, but we were still chilling. Industrial revolution had already happened. World wars had ended. We had discovered antibiotics. There was cinema for leisure. Mass production of cars had started. And aeroplanes had made long journeys much shorter. And we had radios in every household. Life was great. But by 1958, everything changed. In 1958, when scientist Charles David Keeling began measuring CO2 levels at the Mauna Loa Observatory in Hawaii, for the first time, the humanity got a heartbeat monitor for the planet, showing a steady, undeniable rise in carbon levels every single year. Within just a couple of years, Keeling noticed something beautiful and strange in his data. The CO2 levels didn't just go up in a straight line. They went up and down in a perfect sawtooth pattern every 12 months. Every spring and summer, the northern hemisphere, which has much more landmass and vegetation than the southern, the massive forests bloom and suck carbon dioxide out of the sky. The CO2 levels drop. Every spring and summer, every autumn and winter, the leaves die and decompose, releasing CO2 back into the air, and the carbon dioxide levels rise. Keeling had literally discovered the Earth's respiratory system, inhaling and exhaling, and it came to be known as the Keeling curve. And then the significance of what Keeling discovered started to dawn on us. While the seasonal breathing was a poetic discovery, but the scary part was the trend line. Every year, the peak of the exhale was higher than the year before, and the trough of the inhale never went as low as the previous year. This created a rising curve that has not stopped since 1958. It still continues. The last 7 years, 2018 to 24, represent the hottest period in recorded human history. This isn't just a single uptick. It's a sustained step up in global temperatures that has surprised even some climate modelers. If we continue on this path, the 3-degree scenario is quite likely to happen by the year 2100. At 3 degrees of warming, many areas could face month-long heat waves, crop failures, a skyrocketing energy demand for air conditioning, as well as a huge risk for insect-borne diseases. A lot has been done since discovery of global warming. A massive lot still needs to be done. If you see today's panel discussion in this light, you can easily guess how meaningful it is in today's times. A project has been launched by AFD France, European Union, SIDBI, and Shakti Foundation, which is known as the Green Indian Financial Systems Initiative, or GIFS initiative. The panel discussion we are going to have is part of this GIFS project. GIFS is a 4-year program funded by AFD and the European Union and is being implemented by Climate Policy Initiative in partnership with Octa CSG and Foundation for MSME Clusters. The GIFS initiative aims to align India's financial ecosystem with climate resilience and sustainability goals by fostering responsible financial practices among regulators, enhancing women's leadership, and supporting MSME climate finance. In this panel discussion, we are going to have a discussion on developing a comprehensive taxonomy structure for measurement of climate finance, green finance exposures. The framework will subsequently be shared with the policymaker. But before we do that, we have the advantage of a lot of BMOs being present here and the MSMEs also. So to touch base with the MSMEs present, we also want to understand from them what are their expectations as far as green finance is concerned. Are we getting adequate capital for your green projects? Are you facing any difficulty? Is capital still a challenge? And to the BMOs present, we want to understand from them, are our member MSMEs aware of the nuances of climate change related challenges and how they would affect their businesses? Do you find there are information gaps and capacity building needs for MSMEs for accessing climate finance in this regard, which need to be handled? So I invite the audience here to join us to speak up their concerns on green finance. A couple of speakers might do. So over to you, gentlemen. What do you think are the challenges before MSMEs in your perspective? Anybody? Yeah, please.
Hello. So, hello, sir. Myself, Pranav. I am also into MSMEs and I am also a textile manufacturer. So, basically, considering the green finance, I would like to ask what exactly is the green finance we are speaking about? Installing solar panels, using more efficient technologies, and what exactly do we consider as a green finance into MSME? So, that's basically I need to, if you could help me out.
Wonderful, absolutely right. Thank you so much for
you.
expressing the concern. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, sir. It's really wonderful to be here. Myself, Pranka Goyal, and I belong to textile unit, manufacturing unit over here in Punjab, and representing Laghu Udyog Bharti over here, and being a MSME myself. So my ask is from, like, when we go for the MSME benefits, and when we approach banks for the green investments, we are often asked for the technical assessments and TPROs, projections, compliances, documentaries, and there is a simplified way, any simplified way where we can get की better way से हम उसको login कर सकते हैं और उनकी जो availability हम approach कर सकते हैं, because एक क्लस्टर के लिए उसको प्रोजेक्ट को पास करवाने के लिए so many times MSMEs को ऑफिसेज में चक्कर काटने पड़ते हैं, बहुत बार अप्रोच करना पड़ता है, एंड अगेन द MSME ऑफिसर कहता है कि आपका ये प्रोजेक्ट नहीं कंप्लीट हो सकता, आपकी डॉक्यूमेंटेशन में ये लैक ऑफ लाइक नॉलेज है. तो गवर्नमेंट नॉलेज प्रोवाइड करवाती है, बट मुझे लगता है कि हर एक MSME तक नहीं पहुंच पाती और उसके कारण ये क्लस्टर हम कंबाइन नहीं कर पाते. So, is there is any suggestion or any way to go direct to submit the any MSMEs?
Thank you. Thank you so much for expressing this concern. Yes, please.
Sir, myself Gurmeet Singh Kular, President FICO IMSME of India. My 2 points are there. If we talk about the solar energy, then solar panels are the most important thing for that. But the state governments are demoralizing day by day. As far as 6 years back, we can install the load up to 95%. If we have 100 kilowatt power load, we can install 95. And now this year, government has decreased every year to 63 kilowatt. And now next year they have proposed for the 45 kilowatts. So it's very dangerous for the future. Government should promote solar energy. Second point was that when we install the solar panels and the total plant and the input tax credit of GST we have taken. Now the government issues us the show cause notices that you have availed input tax credit on solar panels, which is not allowed because you have supplied power to grid. Sir, if we supplied power to grid and even the meter is double directional.
Yeah, point taken, point taken. You're pointing to policy issues.
Yes,
You're
sir, it should
absolutely
be the solar green should be promoted, then
Understood.
the government should liberalize to do that.
Understood.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
solar panels will not, nobody will install.
Understood.
Thank you.
Please have a seat. So I also want to clarify to all the participants and attendees here that while we are going to have this panel discussion on taxonomy structure, but we are going to have 2 more FGDs after this, not today, but in coming months, where we'll be working in clusters and holding FGDs directly with the MSMEs also. So what doesn't get answered here would actually get answered in those sessions. So thank you very much for expressing your concerns. Pleased to have your feedback on this. Moving on with the panel discussion, I think we can start start with Mr. Satyaki Rastogi, Chief General Manager of SIDBI, who is here. He heads the Green Finance vertical of SIDBI. And what we would like to know from him is basically, does he think that the MSMEs in India have started getting adequate capital for their green and climate finance needs? Or do we see still some gaps? And which are the sub areas of climate finance or green finance where finance is lacking, is not reaching, or reaching only minimally? So, Mr. Satyaki Rastogi, would love to know from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand ji. Am I audible? Yeah, okay. So, first of all, thanks to the organizers for inviting me here to be a part of this panel, and my co-panelists also. Thanks to them. I think, Anand ji, first thing that I have to say is part of response you got from the madam. She has already raised certain things, so you got a part of response from her. But before I come to your question and answer that, let me set a context, and I will be talking more from the perspective of MSMEs, because I come from an institution which is made for MSMEs, so I'll be talking more from their perspective. We have to take into account 3 very important aspects first. That one, Make in India program of Government of India, where the government intends the country to become the global manufacturing hub. The second point is that vision of government to make India a Viksit Bharat by 2047. And the objective third is the objective that the country wants to be net zero by 2070. So now, if we look at it, this provides a lot of opportunities and a lot of challenges. One, that as we become global manufacturing hub, we will be suppliers to the world, and whom we will be supplying to largely the developed large economies who are very, very sensitive to sustainable manufacturing practices. So what it brings to us is that going forward, you have to be, the MSMEs have to adapt to sustainable manufacturing practices. When this concept started, probably it was more of a moral obligation. But today, it has become a more business strategy. So unless and until you adapt to it, you want to be part of the global value chain, this will not happen. Secondly, you have to look at how MSME sector is changing in the last 3-4 years, especially since 20. Earlier, I remember even 5 years back, we used to talk about there are 7 crore MSMEs in India, and there were only 1.5 crore registered MSMEs at that point of time. Today, the registered MSMEs itself is 7.5 crore, out of which around 4.5 crore are on the Udyam portal, and another 2.92 crore on the Udyam Assist. So the number, we used to talk that there are 7 crore, there are more than 7.5 crore MSMEs there. The government intends to take the share of MSMEs into the GDP up from 31% to maybe 40% by 2047, which is globally what MSMEs contribute. So I think this brings in a lot of immense opportunities for MSMEs to get into the sustainable finance, onto the sustainable manufacturing practices. But your question, whether adequate finance is available to MSMEs, to the industry you are saying, but I'll talk about MSMEs. So MSMEs, my answer to that is a yes and a no. So there is no yes, because if you look at it in the last 3 to 4 years, the sustainable finance has grown over 200% in India. So we're from where we were in 21-22, it's much larger now. The problem here is that the financiers who are there are limited to a few players in the market. So even if you do a Google search, the names that will appear to you as sustainable finance, who are doing sustainable finance in the country, IREDA, NABARD, SIDBI. This is what you get in a Google search. But yes, there are some large public sector banks also who are into this space. So because of this limitation of very few players coming into the sustainable finance space, I feel that the finance available is not adequate, because specifically IREDA, SIDBI or NABARD also have a problem of limited network. So they are not there across the country. They do not reach out to every cluster. They do not reach out to every city, every nook and corner of the country. No, but what is the challenge that is coming? So there are 3 or 4 very important aspects that we have to take into account. One, the first and foremost, the capital cost that is involved. For an MSME to understand that this is a long-term investment, the capital cost has a payback period, but within that, post that payback period, it's always advantageous. But the MSMEs don't understand it. Nobody is there to actually explain to them how it benefits them. So for them, it doesn't make any kind of a commercial sense as to why they have to invest into this sustainable practice. Obviously, it is improving. It is improving over a period of time. Certain sectors in which MSMEs are there, like energy efficiency or renewable energy, still there is a better understanding. The cost of solar PVs have come down. So solar has become a little bit more affordable. But still, I think the challenges lie there. The second point is, as I said, number of players are limited. Other than 5-6 institutions, they have not yet understood the commercial viability of it. They don't understand the risks. Many of the lenders don't understand the risks. Their underwriting practices are very different, traditional. They don't take into account the requirements and the risks that are associated with the sustainable finance. And because of that, it doesn't make commercial sense to them. So they are very, what to say, वो लोग अभी करना नहीं चाहते इसको. And उनको कैसे लाएं, वो एक बहुत difficult aspect है. Third is the cost of credit. अभी, because of initial capital costs, the MSMEs are more dependent on subsidies and concessional loans. Now, if the subsidies and concessional loans are not available, it becomes very difficult for them to even make an assessment of as to how it will make a commercial sense to them. The fourth thing is, if I have to talk about, when you said, what are the challenges, what are the areas? So what is happening is energy efficiency and renewable energy. These are 2 things which have picked up in the market, where there are finances, there are cash flows available. Bankers have started understanding it. So they find it convenient to lend for energy efficient machines or for solar panels or for wind energy. But when it comes to other aspects, e-mobility, there are very few takers for lending to e-vehicles. There are issues involved in that. I have been talking to various stakeholders in that. And especially when it comes to commercial vehicles, in green commercial vehicles, EVs, the problem in the transportation sector is that the battery takes a lot of weight out of the total carriage capacity. So if there is a battery, weight itself is around 4 tons out of the total carriage capacity which it takes. the battery life, its replacement cost. There are many things which they don't understand. And at the same time, bankers don't understand the model as to how to lend in that space. So this is what restricts them. Then circular economy, nothing is happening because again, cash flow structures, revenue streams are not clear. And the last and most important aspect, that is nature-based solutions, or what we call as adaptation. These are the areas where it's very difficult, not only in India, but world over. Adaptation has not picked up. The penetration is barely 2% of the overall finance which goes into adaptation. And that too comes more as a CSR money, more as a social sector government funding kind of a thing, rather than funding by the banks. So that's my take.
Thank you so much, Mr. Satiki. Very valid points and very eye-opening kind of points you've made. From what you said about lenders do not understand the risks well of climate-related financing, and it doesn't make commercial sense to them. From here, I want to switch to Mr. Bansal, who is from Axis Bank. My question to him is, do you think there is enough guidance available to the staff of the lenders to understand these risks related to climate finance, and also to whether they are able to correctly classify what's a green exposure, what is a mitigation exposure, what is an adaptation exposure, what is climate resilience exposure? So is there enough guidance available, first of all? And second, as bankers, are we able to even precisely measure how much finance is going to which sub-area of green finance? So we'll be happy if you could throw some light on these aspects.
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible to all? Good afternoon, fellow panelists, respected dignitaries. Thank you, Mr. Srivastava, for the question. I think I'll answer your question in two parts. The question is in two parts. I think we are moving in the right direction, but this is still evolving. India's draft climate finance taxonomy is an important step. It gives direction on what qualifies as adaptation and mitigation, and aims to be practical, including the MSMEs. As consultations progress, we look for more clarity on the operational guidelines. Most taxonomies today are principle-based. They give directions, but bankers need to translate them into simple internal rules for the frontline teams to assess them, underwrite them at a larger scale and consistently. From a lender's perspective, the real challenge is not intent. It is translation. Turning high-level guidance into clear, system-embedded, decision-based rules is what will make classification work at scale. So the direction is clear, no doubt about it. And as the coordination builds between the regulator and bankers and industry, we think the clarity will continue on improving. Regarding your second part of the question, that can we categorize the subcategories, again, on an aggregate level, I think most banks today can classify green or sustainable finance at a macro level. But to precisely measure it across subcategories such as adaptation, mitigation, climate resilience finance, it would need three things, I think. One is a stable and widely accepted taxonomy, standardized data definitions, and climate-related data must be captured at the time of loan origination. I think we are in a transition phase. Most of the banking systems that we have today, they were not built, with climate tagging as a core data field. So to go back and, fill those fields prehistorically may be a challenge, but doing it as a forward integration will be more practical. I think steadily the data classification is improving, and while the taxonomy matures and data captures become more structured, we'll be able to measure it with more precision. Also, I think, yeah, while we look forward to this, I think the larger goal is to measurement and reporting. They must have the larger goals, which is to scale real green and climate helpful projects on the ground. Classification, after all, is an enabler, but not the end objective. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bansal. Very well said. Moving on to Mr. Pathak, Mr. Nilotpal. Why there is so much confusion in various terms associated with green finance? How we differentiate between, for example, sustainable finance, what is green finance, what is environmental finance? A common person listening to these terms get absolutely confused. Which one is a larger set, which is a subset? So please throw some light on this. And are there clear approaches or definitions followed in other countries or by international bodies like UNFCCC, which could cover the entire green finance space and not just the climate finance space?
Thanks a lot. You're absolutely right. We have lots of confusion, and more so when we talk, in common parlance, or when we are talking little casually about these terms. They are used interchangeably. But in recent times, there are efforts have been made to bring differentiation across the definition. So the broader umbrella term today, which is used for such kind of financing, is sustainable finance. So that's the broad umbrella term. Within that, we have got climate finance as a subcategory, which is aimed largely at any initiative, any effort that's happening towards climate change mitigation or climate change adaptation. So that gets categorized as climate finance. Then we have the broad term of green finance. So within green finance, whatever effort is being done on obtaining energy from the sustainable sources such as solar energy, biomass, wind energy. So anything which has got an element of sustainability gets qualified under green finance. Even, but there are certain international bodies which have done really path-breaking work in this direction. One of the things which is noteworthy, in fact, two institutions have done very good work in bringing right kind of, framework in defining different types of sustainable finance. One of them is G20 initiative, which alongside UNEP has done some work. But the latest, which has been brought in by European Union, that brings lots of clarity on different types of, sources of finance. So they are very categorically given the ultimate goals as the classification criteria. Anything which is targeted towards climate risk mitigation, climate change risk mitigation, or climate adaptation, that clearly gets qualified as climate finance. As far as the circular economy is concerned, there is lots of confusion there also. So now they have clearly put wherever the, an effort is being made towards making efforts more sustainable, bringing the element of circular economy into mainstream, that gets qualified as broader green finance. So they have identified 6 such goals. Anything which gets related to climate change adaptation gets qualified under climate finance, climate change finance, and things related to energy efficiency, energy sustainability, circular economy, all of that gets qualified under green finance. Apart from that, there are 2 bodies which are operating at different levels to ensure that there is uniformity across these definition, and also uniformity in terms of the standards. So there is this body called International Platform for Sustainable Finance, which works alongside the governments to bring standardization in the definition of different aspects of sustainable finance. For the corporates, we have a separate body, international body for International Board for Sustainable Finance, and they work largely with the corporates to set standards, different types of standards for required changes that they look for. So as of now, these are the few initiatives that are being brought in, and they are doing a good job of bringing uniformity across different types of finance.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Pathak. Mr. Kapur, I also want to touch base with you upon this confusion about classification. Mr. Pathak mentioned that sustainable finance is the largest set, and then there is climate finance, and then there is green finance. You subscribe to that, or there is still some confusion remaining which need to be clarified to start with? And then we would like to have your views upon the draft taxonomy structure of the Government of India, which is still in draft stage. The question is how this structure is actually helping in measuring flow of capital to various areas or sub-areas of green finance. Does it cover everything, or we need to supplement it with additional clarity? And once we develop a common framework for everybody, how to implement this framework among lenders and investors? Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. I think I'll just take a minute to first of all come back to the title of the discussion, which is taxonomy. And as you started with Q&As asking the audience, and the first question was, what is green finance? So that is the crux of the thing. I think as a country or as a universe, we know that where we are headed. We have seen 100 years of very, very rapid and accelerating industrial growth in western part of the world, then Asia, and now India. We are talking of becoming a developed economy by 2047, what is being called as the Amrit Kal, and which would involve for us also, if we have to become developed, we have to, let's say, get HDI of at least 0.9, and which would mean that energy consumption from the current level, it has to go up from 5 to 6 times at the current energy levels, consumption levels for the developed economies of the world. So it's a exciting as well as frightening prospect. How do we achieve both? That how do we achieve growth, and how do we take care of the generations to come? How do we leave behind a world which doesn't curse us for giving them a dying planet or a dead planet? So it all starts with, I think, so one big milestone which has happened is in May last year, Government of India coming up with draft taxonomy structure for the country. It is still at the draft stage, but it's a great document. And I would like to quote some numbers which are given in the preamble itself. That, if we have to go, we have committed the NDCs and we want to be net zero emissions by 2070. And as per NITI Aayog's India energy security scenarios, there's a scenario building tool. So we would need $250 billion per year to be spent on energy transition by 2047. Adaptation, which you mentioned about, that everybody is talking of mitigation. Adaptation has been lagging behind, and as per the estimate by NITI Aayog, this is going to need, cumulative expenditure for adaptation on business as a usual model of about 56 trillion rupees, which is about 650 billion US dollars. And I mentioned about, taking our energy to this level. So big question then comes is, what is green? What is the whole scenario like? And for a country to be progressing forward, we should first be clear about what do we mean when we say green, what do we mean when we say sustainable, what do we mean when we say circular economy, what is included, what is not. Say, for example, MSMEs, which are sitting here. So let's talk of adaptation versus mitigation. So mitigation is reducing the emissions or reducing the ill effects on the environment, but adaptation is, now that we know that we are going to see 3 degrees centigrade rise by 2091, or 1.5 to 2 degrees by 2050, so how are we going to cope with the new, environment and survive? So example is SMEs which consume water. How do they survive water scarcity? Can they, if they invest into, let's say, 100% recycling of water, is that a green, investment or not? Or even, creating a roof which is insulated. So additional investment is needed. But to work in a factory which is going to survive, we spoke about, 100, days heat waves from 30 days, which we are seeing today. So how to survive in that scenario? Does it qualify as green investment or not? So for all of this, a taxonomy structure is the first need. So I think a big milestone has been achieved in doing that. And, for this, I think the document has done a great job. It's a logical standardization of the terminology, specific technical criteria being laid out, not just for, mitigation, but for adaptation and also for transition. I think we have not spoken about, none of the speakers has addressed transition. So transition is as important as adaptation and mitigation. So what is transition? So we know the industries which are bound to remain polluting. There's no way you're going to manufacture steel without consuming, without polluting, without releasing carbon into air. So when you say that it's going to consume less coal or going to have less emission, that is transition. So reducing the impact itself is transitioning. So it's not something which you can call as green investment, and yet it is needed for the purpose of climate sustainability to be funded. So the taxonomy structure is also addressing that. So it's quite wide, and I think it's a very good beginning. But whether it is adequate, I think we are a long way to go from there. We are quite a long way to go. The 3 specific things which I want to speak about. So one is that, the definition of the adaptation and the transition side, it still remains weak as far as the taxonomy document is concerned. This needs to be firmed up, and perhaps we need to have separate taxonomy for adaptation and a separate taxonomy for transition to follow, if not to be included in this. Second is, I think, MSME simplicity, because for MSMEs, they don't have, the bandwidth to absorb data-centric models. They don't have the management bandwidth to keep pace with the technologies needed to measure, to verify the savings, to verify the adaptation, to verify the impact, not just around carbon, but along all the 6 pillars which the taxonomy draft guidelines speaks about. So suitability from MSME, I think, is one big area which this document needs to address. With regard to the implementation of this, I think once it comes into force, so I'm sure that all the regulators, not just the lenders or the industry themselves or the BMOs, need to rise up to it, rise up to the challenge, that how do we convert this into actual investments happening, actual results coming which are consistent with the goals which as a country we have set out to do. But I think coordination among all these agencies is something where it's going to be a big challenge. Particularly on the regulatory side, you have capital regulators, SEBI, you have insurance regulators, you have regulators on the finance side, which is Reserve Bank of India. So we need to ensure that the gaps are taken care of and the overlaps do not result in confusion when it comes to the regulatory part of the regime. On the implementation side, I think while it's good to hear Dr. Ajay Shankar mention in the morning that we do not have heavy investment, so we have an opportunity that we are creating, investments now. I think the amount of investment which is happening, the surplus which an economy growing at 7 to 8% generates is much more than the surpluses generated by, let's say, economy growing at 2%. So those surpluses are going to result in heavy investments to come. So those can be green investments more and more. But on the lending side, infrastructure is already in place. All the banks have CBSs, they have loan origination systems. So for them to be, compatible with the taxonomy, that is going to be a challenge. That you don't need text fields to capture, the data which would help you establish whether a particular investment, like Saurabh mentioned, is a green or not. You'll need, a drop-down list which is emanating from the the thresholds defined in the taxonomy structure, and that's going to be a big, challenge of the task. Last and not the least is change in the mindset of both the borrowers and the lenders. I think from the questions which arose, it is very clear that we are far, far away when it comes to industry awareness about where we are headed or what is coming. Believe me, I have handled sustainable finance at its birth in SIDBI, and even now I'm connected with the financial system, banking system. The problem is as acute on the lending side as well. So bringing awareness, making sure that, the risk is understood clearly and the risk is captured is very important. I think I would end here by simply saying that the lenders are not really the custodians of the environment. They are custodians of public deposits, public monies. So if they will be transitioning, they'll be transitioning driven by only two factors. A, to protect their investments, to protect their monies, because they need to ensure the safety of the depositors' monies or the investors' capital. And B, that they will remain acutely aware of the risks to them which come from, undertaking. Let's say if I raise green bonds and tomorrow it is denied, the status, I run into a reputational risk, I run into financial risk, or at the grassroots level, I'm looking at an individual MSME investment, which I treat as green, and I think I am not confident enough, I would step away, I tend to step away from that. So this is, I think, a journey which is only beginning. Let's make sure that, we are doing enough at the BMO level, at the consultants level. We also lack, a network of specialists. One example is, contrast between India and, let's say, China. China created an ESCO market from almost non-existent market at the turn of the century to now over 10,000 ESCOs. So what is an ESCO? See, most of these energy programs are aimed at energy-intensive businesses. And an MSME business which is not energy-intensive, why it should be spending time, energy on taking an investment which is going to bring energy efficiency. So there ESCO comes in, that it says that, okay, I'll do the, I promise you so much of saving in energy, and I'm going to install everything. So it's just a management decision that I'm going to share the saving with you for a while, and thereafter all the savings are your own. So I take care of everything. So that has led to massive, massive investments in energy efficiency in China. We have been trying to build that market, it has not happened. So I think the infrastructure of small consultants, small organizations which help in the greening of the Indian investment scale also needs address. I hope, Anand, in your exercise, we are able to devote enough focus on this as well. I think I would end here. With regard to the question you asked about, I think the terminologies are far wider than this. The taxonomy standards focuses on 6 pillars. I would not go into those pillars right now. And I think it brings clarity. For me, what is important is whether the investment I am faced with at a business level, whether it fits into any of these or not, and what can I do. So it's quite possible. So, I think it's also important to talk about what internationally we are talking of, DNSH, do no substantial harm. So if, let's say, if I'm going for an investment which appears to be green investment, but it's, let's say, impacting biodiversity, then it should not qualify, even if it is energy efficient, even if it's bringing energy, savings. So it's a complex subject. I think we need to learn as we go.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Very well said. Valuable insights. Wonderful. We move on to Dr. Pawan, who is the former CEO, MD and CEO of PTC India Financial Services. Dr. Pawan, what in your experience is the key challenge in climate finance in India? And what should an acceptable common framework for measuring the green or climate finance exposures look like from the perspective of lenders and investors? Thank you.
So, first of all, congratulations to organizers for organizing such a relevant topic on the, climate finance. Because after Mr. Trump came in US, it looked like that, such focus will disappear from the market. But I'm glad that it's still on, and thank you very much for that. As regard to my experience with green finance, it has been extremely good. In fact, we were the first people who started lending green finance in India. In fact, when first time Renew Power came to borrow for the first project, no banker was ready to lend them. And when Azure Power also came to India, I remember the proposal I took to board. And people said that, why are you giving to a company like Azure? You should give to ILFS. So that was the Hero Futuristic and many more. And we were fortunately the first ones too. But eventually what happened is, one thing, we work in a ecosystem and we don't work in isolation. So whether bankers or financials, they work alongside the policymakers, the regulators, and so on. They don't work in isolation. So if the policy and regulation support is strong, the financial banking industry goes there. As we say that money is the biggest coward, So it goes to place where the risk is lowest. So you manage the risk and the money will start flowing. You don't force bankers to put money there. You manage the risk. So you improve the ecosystem and the money will start flowing there. And this is what happened when we did, a lot of people found that, see, initially we were also a thermal company, hydro company. And what had happened is our NPS had galloped, and so had the NPS of banks and financial institutions. Now, when we started lending to renewable, we found that these guys don't have NPS. Wherever renewable portfolio is there, there is no NPS. So there is something, which... So when people started going a little deep diving into it, they found that it makes a lot of business sense to go into renewable financing. Now, after that, we were left high and dry because all these borrowers we were the first lenders, they said they were not prepared to be with us because they were all getting cheap money. They were all overbought. International lenders were all ready to lend to them. So that's how, Then we said, okay, fine, we will do something else. So we started doing electrical mobility came in India. So we tried to understand that. And we were the first ones to do electrical mobility. Now electrical mobility also picked up to some extent, and other lenders also have joined the bandwagon. It's a big market now. Then in renewable energy, we said that, the PPA-backed renewable energy was what was being preferred. So we started doing CNI kind of lending. CNI is commercial and industrial. Now there, because other bankers and lenders were hesitant, then we started doing it. Lot of questions being asked by my board and all. Why are you doing it? Who are the counterparties? We had to ensure that the bundle of whatever was being produced was being sold to highly creditworthy customers, A rating, double A rating kind of thing. So it started from there. Now they suddenly found that CNI customers pay better than the distribution companies. So all bankers or financial institutions started moving there. So when we focus on getting money, green finance, climate finance, adaptability finance, mitigation finance, what is very important is that the regulatory framework should support the flow of money. That is very, very important. You can't whip somebody to lend money. Money cannot go there. You may do something, just for a demonstration sake. You may do it, but you will not. It will not be your business model. As Mr. Kapur rightly said, that it's a business. Actually, it is. We are into business of lending, so it has to be seen from that angle. Now coming to the second part of the issue, which is definition, which is most acceptable definition, and then I would add to that why MSME should go for sustainability, as a part of their business, or energy efficiency as a part of their business, or clean energy as a part of their business. Why is it so important for them? Now, see, definition per se, as we are evolving the definition may come whatever way it comes. See, there are already definitions moving around, and there is RBI circular which has come, which talks about, this green finance reporting. SEBI already has a, circular on this. They say scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Scope 1 is your direct consumption of your fuel. Second is scope 2 is your, whatever electricity you are using in the system, or then scope 3 is indirect use of energy, whatever you are using. So already there is a norm. They say mandatorily scope 1, scope 2, but eventually it will come to scope 3. So it is better that today, see, what happens is that it is always better to, like some people, it's a saying, English proverb, which says that some people change when they see the light, and some people change when they see the heat, when they feel the heat. So it is better to change when the light is there. So you see which way the world is moving, which way the economy is moving, which way the regulation is moving. So you have to be, if not ahead of the curve, at least be with the curve, so that you're prepared. You're not caught unaware, because see what is going to happen, you're not only managing the environment, because tomorrow environment and business risk are going to be dovetailed. So if you don't manage your environmental risk, you're not managing your business risk. So both are, so you have to be prepared. If you're managing your business risk, you have to manage your environment risk. Both have to go together. So, I mean, it may not be that compulsorily it is being done, but eventually it is going to come. Step by step, maybe very fast, maybe very slow, but it will come. So industry have to be prepared. Also very important, institutions like ours, we were neither government nor we were private sector, but we were NBFCs. So we were flexible, we were nimble-footed, we could take decisions. Unfortunately, we can't entirely, with due respect to my colleague panelists, I must say that we can't entirely depend on the government for, government financial institutions to entirely fund this kind of, especially where the requirement is nimble-footed, where the MSMEs require fund. So you have to rope in intermediaries, you have to rope in NBFCs who are quick, fast in disbursement. You go to the, you have to have fintech companies who would be lending in MSME space, especially on the green finance. And these guys are smart enough. I mean, everybody is smart. We are all smart. But these guys are smart enough to find the, there is a word which we call market asymmetry. So they are able to catch the market asymmetry, play on it. And then, like today, what has happened? Your urban clap. What have they done? They have, they have played on the market asymmetry. Your Swiggy, it has played on the market asymmetry. There is a huge market asymmetry awaiting for MSME finance, especially in pertaining to renewable and green. So it is not that which has to be thrust. Some people have to find business opportunity and they will scale up. So this is what, the ecosystem, when we define taxonomy and all that is fine, but also work on the ecosystem where you provide room for free play for the lenders and the borrowers. My friend, she asked, I'm not getting money. I have gone to several seminars and, I've been panel of MSME evaluation committees. And when we have interface, people say, I can't get money. And there are people who say, I have money, I can't give you money. So there is a gap which has to be filled up, and it has to be speed. When you need money, and if you are good enough, why you should not get money? And if you have to get money, you should get it in at a week's time. So this is what, probably, the framework has to be evolved to meet this kind of a market asymmetry. I'm sure the organizers will take this fact also into consideration while they make the recommendation to the government. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Wow. How lovely and what a wonderful session we had during this panel discussion. A lot of information points have emerged. A lot of insights have come. And thanks a lot to all the speakers who brought out these points very, very vividly. Many thanks to the panelists for bringing out the nuances of green finance and approaches for developing taxonomy structure. Among things which were very notable, I think Mr. Satyaki brought out very clearly that all efforts needed to be directed to the national goals, and once we do that, new opportunities and challenges emerge. And adequate finance to MSMEs, he was very open in admitting that yes, the answer is both yes and no. Because even though sustainable finance might have grown by 200%, but to say that it has reached to all needy, that will be a big claim. So he was very open admitting that a lot more needs to be done. Mr. Bansal also mentioned very, very vividly that more clarity is needed in operational guidelines as far as lenders are concerned. Clear system embedded operating rules need to be made. Only then we'll be able to capture the climate related data with the required efficiency and clarity. Mr. Pathak also brought out beautifully the confusion that prevails among various terminologies in climate finance, green finance, sustainable finance, environmental finance, adaptation, mitigation, etc. And he tried to clarify that sustainable finance is probably the largest set to which the green finance and climate finance are part of. So this clears some of the confusion. And thanks for bringing out, Mr. Pathak, the European Union's ultimate rules of classification. We will go through that and we'll try to use them to our advantage in clarifying this structure. Mr. Kapur, as usual, brought out very interesting points, and he mentioned that even though government taxonomy structure is a great document, we would probably need to go beyond that, and we need to develop it further. He also mentioned that everybody talks about mitigation, but adaptation somewhere gets left behind, so we should, going forward, focus more on adaptation. What is green? He mentioned that should be clarified first. We should be very, very clear in our classification, what gets included, what doesn't get included, what gets excluded. So definition part should be absolutely clear. And we do not just focus on mitigation and adaptation, we should also focus on transition, he very clearly brought out. About the implementation side, he mentioned very, very nicely and validly that all the regulators, whether it is SEBI or insurance regulators or the Reserve Bank, all they need to unite in implementation of these taxonomy framework. And BMOs and MSMEs also need to take an active part in making sure that we focus on actual results coming, for which a lot of coordination efforts are needed. Dr. Pawan, thanks a lot for your special remarks on your experience with the green finance and the renewable energy sector. And green finance, you very rightly said, which Mr. Kapur also highlighted, that green finance should be seen from the business angle, not just from the perspective of lenders or investors. Business is important. step-by-step measurement of environmental risks is also very, very essential. And therefore, all these points we will try to collate, and we'll try to come out with a paper, what are the learnings from this panel discussion. And we don't stop here. 2 more FGDs are coming up in coming days, where we'll be discussing directly with MSMEs. I see a lot of concerns from MSME side and the BMO side, and we'll be making those BMOs and MSMEs part of those panel discussions and roundtables. So the journey will continue. Having said that, sometimes the picture might seem very gloomy, that so little has been done in climate change to arrest damage to the climate, but efforts continue. Whether it is possible to reverse the climate damage, the answer is yes, it is possible. Only thing is concerted efforts are needed. Whether it is easy, of course not. Nothing is easy, and we don't value things which come easily to us. So we definitely need to step up our efforts. I want to share a couplet from Rahat Indori at this stage, who said that कि सफ़र की हद है वहाँ तक कि कुछ निशान रहे, सफ़र की हद है वहाँ तक कि कुछ निशान रहे, चले चलो कि जहाँ तक कि आसमान रहे, और ये क्या कि उठाए कदम और आ गई मंजिल, मज़ा तो तब है कि पैरों में कुछ थकान रहे. So we will continue our efforts. Nothing is easy, but we are not going to leave it here. We are going to continue to press forward, and humanity has surmounted many challenges in the past. Humanity will win again. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And with this, I announce closure of this panel discussion.
I just want to add that I compliment FMC for organizing this event as a carbon neutral event. This is very few events which are carbon neutral. You're not finding any plastic, for water, etc. At FMC, we have been engaged with the help of EU and so many other international partners, and doing so much around, sustainability and green efforts, our efforts on the bamboo clusters, and now working with, AFD on green finance in MSME clusters. So we would as a member of the board, we would keep on pushing for greater action, but request to all present here is engage more. And you're going to see business opportunities. Yes, business risk is there, but this is going to throw open so much of, opportunity to all of you and your members in your organizations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.